Hey everyone, welcome to the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we're going over the Vanquish Products Lineup, as you can see here, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back. As I said, my name is Jake, and today we're going to go over the Vanquish product trucks. Now, we're just going to go over the trucks that they've released. I don't have all of the trucks, so there are 3 trucks here. I'm missing the 4th. These are the trucks that you can purchase today on the Vanquish Products website in kit form, well, sort of, and in RTR form. Now, this isn't counting the old trucks or the old releases, such as this VS410 Pro. So there was a Pro and an Ultra. These trucks are really, these are the second kit that they released. They released the Origin, and then they moved into the Ultra, the Pro, the Pheonix, the Fordyce, the Stance, and now the Optic. So the purpose of this video is to dive into detail on what truck is better for what, because there's a lot of questions in the community. Should I buy a Pheonix or a VRD, or should I buy a Optic or a VRD, or a Pheonix or an Optic, or maybe even a Fordyce? The Fordyce is the only truck that I don't have. I do need to order one, I just haven't done that. There is very little difference between the Fordyce and the Pheonix. Obviously, the body is the biggest difference, and then the transmission are the 2 big differences between the trucks. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same thing. They're both straight axle trucks. They both perform really well. Key difference between the 2 trucks in my mind, outside of the looks, is the transmission. The Pheonix is the only truck that comes with we'll call it a non-standard transmission. Every other truck comes with a VFD, very simple transmission, whereas the Pheonix comes with a more complex transmission that allows you to select overdrive and dig. The H10 Optic has the capabilities of mounting servos for overdrive and dig, but it didn't come with the VFD twin. The VRD Stance doesn't have any of that. It just has the regular VFD, and there's no forward thinking on that truck. With that being said, all of the Vanquish products line up here, with the exception of the Fordyce, and that's really similar to the Pheonix, so we're not going to talk about those 2. The way that I'm going to approach this is we're going to talk about different driving types and which truck would be the best for that driving type and why. Or we'll go over all 3 trucks for the driving type and talk about it. So I have a lot of time driving both the Stance, or really the VRD in general, and the Pheonix, both the straight axle and the portal version. The Pheonix is the only truck in this lineup that comes with the option of purchasing straight axles in an RTR or portals in an RTR. There are rumors that a straight axle VRD is coming, but until that happens, they're just that, rumors. Now, I'm not going to get into which is better, the straight axles or the portals. Just know that portals are essentially the easy mode button for going over obstacles. Where portals become less effective is doing crazy or insane incline climbs. So if you're trying to climb a 60-degree plus incline, the straight axle is going to be more effective there. However, the straight axle is a lot harder to drive over terrain because you have to be very selective on the lines, because you're roughly 1/4 to a 1/2 inch lower, the axle is, right here, lower to the ground, and it's a lot easier to catch rocks and things of that nature. 2 other very important differences between the portal and the straight axle in terms of Vanquish F10 is that you can buy aluminum housings for the portal in the same housing as these Curries. You cannot, however, buy the aluminum housings for the F10 straight axle in the same configuration. They do have aluminum housings, but they are essentially imitating a Toyota axle and an HD44. There are no Curry-based aluminum F10 straights. Just an FYI. The first thing I want to talk about is trail riding. Where a trail ride in my mind, and I'll give you a definition, the definition of what I think each one of these different activities is, if you will. So trail riding to me is going on a nice luxury ride, whether you're going down a peaceful mountain bike or hike trail, or you're walking down the sidewalk, is something that doesn't require a lot of effort. It's really easy to do. It's like going to an off-road park and riding down the fire roads. The fire roads are really easy because they're just what they sound like. They're for fire trucks in the event of a fire. and you can't have a lot of obstacles and crazy things when you're trying to go really fast to a fire to put it out. So in my mind, trail riding is like riding fire roads. It's just cruising down the old gravel roads and enjoying life. Gravel could be dirt or sandy beaches, things of that nature, just where you are not putting in a lot of effort of driving. You're basically just following the truck and you're exploring. You're not doing any crazy terrain. It's mostly easy going, and I think that I've beat this horse enough. By the way, I'm always going to start with the pheonix, then the VRD, then the H10 optic, because that's the order of which they were released. So the first would I trail this truck would be the pheonix, and it's absolutely built to be a trail truck. When this truck was released, it was and still really is the best ready to run that you can purchase for everything. It does everything really, really well, and I think that's where Vanquish really shines, is when they release a product, it has been thought out from A to Z, everything in between. It's essentially a master of one thing and then a jack of all trades for everything else. Like, it works good everywhere, but it works really good at one thing. When the pheonix was released, it was the best RTR crawler that money could buy. Hands down, no questions asked. Obviously, since that release date, there have been others, and that is no longer the case, but this is still a very strong contender. For trailing, this is the absolute best trail truck in my mind that I can buy, outside of maybe the Fordyce. Here's why. It has selectable overdrive, so if I go down trails, I can turn the overdrive off and have a 6.5% overdrive built into the transfer case. And I don't have any issues with binding or anything like that. The other really cool feature is dig. Maybe I want to turn really sharp, or maybe I want to go down a steep incline. All I have to do is put a servo in the dig selector, select dig, and it happens. It is a very well-rounded, well-weighted truck. Scalability, has a rear cage, has headlights. I mean, it's all there. You know, it's got the chassis-mounted servo, it's got scale effects everywhere, and it's just an awesome truck. The weight is up front, down low. Trail truck, yes. The Vanquish pheonix is perfect for trailing. Moving into the VRD. The VRD is out. I do not want this truck for trail riding. The reason for that is, first of all, it doesn't look like a trail truck. Second of all, it has a locked overdrive, meaning that the front wheels will always spin faster than the rear wheels all the time. That's not really conducive for trailing. And then finally, we have the H10 optic here. This truck is a buggy, Ultra 44/ whatever. In my mind, this is like King of the Hammers vehicle. And for those not familiar with King of the Hammers is essentially a race that is very, very long. I think it's like an 80 or 90 mile loop. It just depends on the year. It's a big circle, and you have to do as many laps as you can in that circle in a certain time frame. Obviously, the one that does the most laps wins within that time period. And here's the kicker. It's not just rock crawling. You go through rock gardens and up rock mountains, but you're also doing desert running. So you're doing 100+ mile an hour through whoops that are this wide or this long. So you have a roller, right? And the roller is like this far apart or more. It's probably anywhere from 1 to 3 foot deep, and you're doing a very high rate of speed through the desert. And so those trucks they're built to withstand a lot. Now, this is basically what that would look like if you built an RC for that. Is something like this. It's essentially a skeleton with some body panels bolted on, a very big naturally aspirated motor with a very, very large fuel cell in the back. For doing that kind of racing, you're actually shifting a lot of the weight to the back to make sure that you can hit those whoops and everything else without bucking and going all over the place. There's a very fine art to that style of racing because you're mixing a bunch of things together. And that's where you get something like this. Not only are you rock crawling, but you're also flying through the desert. Flying through the trail. This truck states on the box that it's a trail truck. My experience with the truck so far has been that is essentially correct. Now, in terms of trailing, this is a great trail truck. The biggest problem with this truck is that it does come with centered gears throughout, And in order to upgrade all of those center gears, you're paying about $235. Throttle happy and act like you're racing in the King of the Hammers and do a simulated 80 mile an hour plus over different terrain, you will immediately shuck these diffs. They were not made to be beat on. I don't know why they put them in here, honestly. And I love Vanquish products. The other thing that you're going to want to do to make this a trail truck is fix the suspension. So the suspension is real bouncy. The shocks leak, just like every other Vanquish shock. Trailing, yes, checks the box. Checks the box. All right, so we've touched on trailing. Let's talk about climbing. Climbing is where you're doing slow, steady, technical objects, and you are essentially trying to climb them. Starting with the Pheonix does really good at this. The biggest problem with the Pheonix is it doesn't have high clearance links, and the skid is not angled, so it's not a dedicated crawler. Does it crawl really good? Yes. Yes, it does. It is, like I said, when it was released, it was the best RTR crawler that money could buy. Hands down, no questions, in my mind, anyway. Is it the best at crawling? Not since it's released. For what it is, it does really, really good. So I would have no problem throwing a bigger set of tires on here. I think these come with 4.6s. That's what these Wild Peaks are. Put some 475s on it. Maybe trim the body up some so the tires don't rub, and you've got a really good time. If you wanted, you could throw some brass in the front, but it's not really needed right out of the box. All I would do out of the box, buying one of these RTRs, is I would get some weighted front wheels, either clamp rings or wheels or both, or add some brass to the hub as well, and I'd send it. You know, you don't really want rotating mass, but this truck is one of the first batches of the RTR. It has seen many people, and it's still bone stock. I haven't replaced anything on it. A testament to how good this truck is. Now moving into the VRD, so this was the next flagship that Vanquish product released after the Pheonix. And this is a dedicated crawler. This is a 100% stock truck with the exception of the links. The links on this truck in RTR form are way less than stellar. They're just like the diffs on the optic here. Which, ironically enough, the stance comes with all centered gearing too. So there's a kind of a theme here. The latter releases, and I don't know if this is true with the Fordyce or not, but the latter releases for the Vanquish products all have centered gearing. So if we take a look at this truck, it's very minimal. It has portal weights from the factory. Other than that, it has the same electronics as all of the other Vanquish Products lineup in RTR form, and it comes with a stamped aluminum frame that is not a C-channel like the Pheonix, a flat rail chassis. All of the gears, diffs, transmission, all of that are all centered just like the optic. That is not the case for the Pheonix. The diffs in the Pheonix are machined, and it does have some machined gears in the transmission. Now there are a lot of kits that came out with all machined gears, but some kits didn't. I've not personally had any problems with the VRD shelling out diffs or transmission gears. For any type of competition crawling or any type of real advanced, like really try hard crawling, you're gonna want to replace the frame rails on this because these aluminum flat rails actually weigh twice as much as the carbon ones. And then you're also going to want to replace the center gears with the lightweight machine gears because you want to remove as much sprung weight as you can and leave all of that weight on the axles. With the kit, you actually get everything upgraded. So you spend $500 for the RTR, you spend $430 for the kit, and it actually is a lot better value. Who am I to tell you what to do? The best crawler you can buy for the money, RTR, right here, VRD. So if you want to do crawling, dedicated rock crawling, this is the one you get. Moving into the optic is a jack of all trades and a master of none. I would say that it is less likely to crawl for a couple of reasons. The first reason that I'm going to get into is likely something not a lot of people have touched on. If you look at the link width here on this front axle, it's actually wider, or really like right around 20 millimeters wider than the F10s. What does that mean? Well, it is a little longer. I think it's like 10, maybe 15 millimeters longer. The issue that you're going to run into is that you can see at full lock you are not cutting into the axle with these 4.6s, or into the link with the 4.6s, but you are absolutely cutting into the link with these 4.75s. The only way you're going to be able to get extreme turning radius on this is to create custom links that come in and then out. So it's got some sort of 90-degree or some sort of angle in them, and it squeezes them more together. These axles are fantastic. They're straight axles. They eliminate the steering link up here from hitting on stuff because it is a PSC style, essentially a hydro style steering. The only other downside to that is that you can't put a longer horn and increase the throw. And even if you could increase the throw, it doesn't matter because your links, you have to upgrade them and make them more narrow. Rock crawling. First issue right there. Turning radius isn't the greatest due to the link width on the axle. The other major issue with this truck for rock crawling is the suspension. So out of the box, it is like all this truck wants to do is roll over. So at any slight angle, you're going to send it and it's going to roll over. The unfortunate part, this truck has no upgrade path for the axles. You can't buy weights for the axles because of the new design of the hubs. The axles don't have aluminum housings yet. Vanquish has not released a third member that's brass or sintered metal, which is kind of strange since all of the third members are interchangeable. So the only way you're adding weight down low on this truck is through rotating mass. So you need to put really heavy wheels on there, really heavy clamp rings, really heavy hubs, front and back. And then finally, the third issue is the suspension. So the shocks themselves, they just, or maybe that was the second issue and the rotating or weight is the third. I don't know. I've lost count. I want to take a moment and kind of dive into why I'm nitpicking this. So stepping back, Vanquish has released fantastic products. Every time Vanquish releases a product, we expect it to be a platinum hit. Like we want it to be the top of the line because that's what it is. The Pheonix was released top of the line. VRD was released top of the line. Everything that they release, the Origin, the Pro, the Ultra, the Ripper, everything that Vanquish releases is absolutely fantastic. It is the talk of the town and it just works right out of the box. That is until we come to this truck. And this truck, the H10 Optic, it is a jack of all trades and really a master of nothing. Whereas these two I would consider masters. This is just interesting, right? It's a truck that Vanquish said that they've been developing for the last 2 years. My assumption here is that this is a poverty ripper. It's a poor man's ripper. These axles are going to be on the ripper, and this is kind of what the next ripper is going to look like. Now, don't quote me on that. I have no inside information. I have no idea. But it isn't made to do really anything but trail. So I think that we need to take a step back and understand that this is just a niche truck. It's not a VRD. It's not a Pheonix. So we can't hold it to the same expectation. You're never, ever, ever going to get a win every single time. I mean, it's just highly improbable. I mean, everyone releases something that may not be the perfect thing at one point or another. While I'm not saying this is Vanquish's mistake or a non-perfect thing, I'm just saying that this doesn't meet a immediate need in terms of what these two meet, in my eyes. There's a lot of controversy with the truck, rightfully so, I think. With that being said, this truck will not crawl like you want it to. If you expect it to crawl like the VRD or the Pheonix, your expectations will be sorely disappointed because it does not actually do that. There's a lot of things that need to be done to this truck in order to make it an effective crawler. The one-piece cage and body panels and interior are all injection molded, and they are a very good portion of that weight. Circling back to crawling. Is this good at crawling? Kind of. Not really. If you want to do any sort of crawling, my first go-to would be the VRD, second go-to would be the pheonix, and then finally, I would probably choose another vehicle before I crawled with the H10 optic. Now we got that out of the way, let's move on to other types of running or driving or whatever. The next type would be bouncing, rock bouncing. The pheonix, terrible. Like, you don't want to rock bounce it. It is not made to be a bouncer. It's made to be a trail truck / rock crawler / whatever. It is not made to be a rock bouncer. VRD, same thing. Not a rock bouncer. It's a low and slow truck, just like the pheonix. The H10 optic probably excels at being a rock bouncer, with a couple of exceptions. Again, the suspension needs tuned and tweaked. It will bounce, and not in the way that you want it to bounce. The other problem-ish is the diffs, right? You're going to have to upgrade the diffs. With that being said, that's really the areas that you're going to utilize these trucks. All three of them come with the same electronics. They're all waterproof. I have fully submerged the pheonix and the stance for that matter, and I've fully submerged all three of these trucks in water with zero issues. Just note that if you do that, you have a possibility or probability of burning up the receiver in these trucks because they are not waterproof. I guess I'm just lucky. Moral of the story here, Vanquish is a fantastic company. They make fantastic things. Everything that they've put out, almost to date, has been very, very, very good. So, when they released the H10 optic, there's a lot of controversy because it is an interesting truck. I mean, that's the only way that I can put it into words. It's interesting, right? It's it is very customizable, it's very tailorable, but you absolutely have to do that to get any type of performance out of it other than just doing simple driving down a trail. Maybe that was the intent of Vanquish. I know I've seen many live streams where they've talked about doing many different things with it, putting 4S in it and running it just fine with no issues. I don't know. To each their own. Moral of the story is this. I see a lot of questions posted all over social media. What is better for rock crawling? Is it the pheonix? Is it the Fordyce? Is it the H10 optic, or is it the stance? If you are purely rock crawling and doing nothing else, you are getting the Vanquish stance. And I would recommend buying the VRD carbon over the VRD stance, because the VRD stance in the long run is going to cost a lot more money. You will replace everything in this truck, almost. You will replace 50% of the stuff in this truck. All of the gearing, you'll replace all of the electronics. You'll probably replace the wheels and tires. You'll probably replace the body. Why not just start with a better product in the kit? Now with the pheonix is the jack of all trades. It does really good rock crawling. It does really good everything. This in RTR form is just fine. You can buy the kit or the RTR. The only difference between the two sometimes is that the transfer case gears are centered in the pheonix. It's really hard to say when they're not. It's always on the box and says, hey, these have machined gears in them. That's the transfer case gears. Do not buy the H10 optic expecting it to be a good rock crawler. It is not going to do that. If you watch videos of other people on YouTube or Facebook or any other social media and it's great at rock crawling, they have a ton of time, money, and effort put into that truck. They probably hacked a lot of the stuff out of here. They probably added a lot of weight into the wheels. And they have had probably either lengthened the rear links or shortened the front links. They've changed the suspension geometry. There's a lot of things that they've done to get it to where it needs to go. It is up to you. We just want to make sure that you have the understanding of what each truck is for, because there are a lot of questions asking what truck is good for what. With that being said, am I remorseful of purchasing the H10 optic? No. It is a cool concept. It is a cool truck. Will I leave it in stock form? Absolutely not. I will be doing a series on upgrading it. We just did a mullet build with the VRD stance. Fantastic truck. I leave you with this question. What do you want to do? Because that's going to dictate which truck to buy, as we've talked about. Huge shout out to the people coming up next. We appreciate you watching and making it this far. If you liked the video, give us a like. Otherwise, we hope you have a great day.